Let's go!
What would you say was your top favorite memory from that game?
I think just my first touchdown that I scored in that game, and then it was dark and the fans were going crazy, and I saw the fireworks going off, so it was just a full circle moment. It was super cool.
Comment below who's going to have the bigger season, Lawson Luckie or Oscar Delp. We'll start off with the elder statesman, Mr. Delp, and at the end of this video today, I got a little bit of a twist. This is more so really good quarterbacking, split field coverage. Obviously, if that's the case, you want to work the vertical to split the too high shell right here, and that is honestly elite quarterbacking. The read isn't too hard, but the throw is just so good. One thing I like about Delp is his nuance, right? This is a big part of this Georgia offense, which are these delay kind of wheels up the sideline. So you see the motion right here changes up the rules of this defense. So you're giving these defenders a lot to work with or a lot to think about. And what you're thinking here is that this is going to be a quick screen to Arian Smith. Oscar Delp shows as if he's blocking, and he has a perfectly timed delay right here, and then he is releasing up the field for a vertical. So as many of you know, Oscar Delp's big game was this Tennessee game, and this ends up being a really nice explosive catch. So one area of Delp's game that I do like quite a bit is after the catch, he's a little bit more slippery than one would think. And what I mean by that is obviously here, Bowers would find a way to split through this and score. Delp, overall, even though it looks like he's given himself up, he does a really good job of really pulling this first guy. And you could see he had to hang on for dear life to bring him down. One area of his game that needs improvement, and it's a very difficult thing to improve upon, is actually bringing down these more difficult catches. He does have a tendency to lose the ball after a hit, and this is a very difficult play to finish, but you'll see right here, he does lose the football here. And you can see right when he turns around, 35, who was a really good player for Tennessee, dislodges this football. So we need to get this football as high and tight as we possibly can to make sure we secure this explosive catch. But you could see Delp does eventually lose the football. So we'll talk about Lawson Luckie here in just a moment. But one thing that you must keep in mind is Georgia is the 12 personnel team in the SEC. Obviously, that Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers tandem was probably the best college tight end tandem I've ever seen. They complemented each other so well. And obviously, Urasek is gone. But Oscar Delp, after crossing face right here, which is very interesting, he gets a block on this edge man and then leaks. Once again, he does a really good job of leaking and disguising himself on plays such as this one. And the thing I really do like about the after the catch ability here is you can see he had to extend, and this time he's able to hold on to the football. And you'll see from this angle, he ends up taking a pretty big shot, and he's able to hold on to it at the end. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about when it comes to his slipperiness after the catch. So you can see right here on the split zone action, he is one-on-one with a DB. Okay, so he gets the football here, and this guy is crashing down right at him. And what does he do? Well, he stiff arms him and makes him miss. Obviously, Texas, to me, had by far the best secondary in the SEC. And then once again, that's a second-round Andrew Makuba that he runs by right there and makes him miss. And then a few plays later, 3rd and 3, he gets the football. And obviously, we covered this in the Gunnar Stockton film study. I mean, he's got a lot of work to do to pick up this first down. All right. So he just runs through this guy. I mean, it basically is just a battle of wills right there to pick up this first down. That is a thick player he put on the ground. So the big thing will be blocking for Oscar Delp. It was interesting that PFF just does not like Oscar Delp for whatever reason. I think he's a fine player. Maybe Georgia fans, the ones that are super diehard and watch every single rep, can correct me. This is a really good blocking rep, albeit on a third-ish level defender, so this is a smaller guy. We want to see you dominate this rep while he's tired midway through the fourth quarter here. But, man, that is just nasty, nasty stuff. So, once again, that's not a defensive end he was blocking, but that block eventually led to Etienne bouncing this for a pretty big chunk of yards. So, good stuff right there from Oscar Delp as a blocker. You just want to see more consistency.
The way I see it is just showing your love for the game on tape, like you are what your tape says, and you want to be able to see when the game's over, when practice is over, that juice, that fire, like on tape, like every single play.
Obviously, we're going to compare him to Oscar Delp quite a bit because it is a nice luxury to have both of these tight ends. I think of the two of them, Luckie in particular is better on these in-breaking routes over the middle. Obviously caught a really big one from Gunnar Stockton. You could see that in our film study, and that's a good catch right there. So like we mentioned a little bit earlier, Georgia does run a lot of 12 personnel, so they will be on the field together quite a bit. I do think of the two, they use Luckie more as the pure vertical receiver, but they use both. Obviously, I think Oscar Delp is more of the split zone, shorter throw kind of guy, which is part of why his yak is better than Lawson Luckie, but Lawson Luckie has a better yard per route run number, and I think part of that is because he is the vertical guy of the two. Now, obviously, we showed you a few Oscar Delp verticals, and we're going to show you two different variations of this play. This features a deep over and a same side kind of out to complete the flood concept. So flood, basically, you have three levels being occupied of the defense. You have the deep third, you have the shallow third, and then you have the intermediate, and oftentimes the target is the intermediate. Now, this does get cut off, but the fact that Luckie got this open on this type of leverage is really, really, really good stuff. This is actually one of my favorite play designs Georgia actually ran all of last year. And you could see that was a corner who had the leverage disadvantage. He really bit in on Luckie faking in that direction and then coming right back. So you see the deep over taking up this deep vertical, and Luckie is wide open right here. That was a very good route and a very nice game. And now we get to the same concept versus Tennessee. This time, though, instead of it being a deep over taking the deep vertical, it is just a same side vertical. So the shallow is the motioned receiver over here, and Luckie's job is to sell potentially that he might be running a post, but then quickly cut back out. All right, and if you look here, Beck feels really good about this. The problem is this corner did not feel threatened enough by this vertical action, and he's able to crash down and come in and make this play over here for the play to be incomplete. All right, so that's a good play right there by a veteran corner. All right, so how is Lawson Luckie as a blocker? This is a little bit different than being an inline blocker because you're out on the perimeter and you're going to be blocking a smaller guy. So I'm going to be fair to Oscar Delp, only showing 7 here, Luckie blocking a DB type. But boy, this is an excellent block. Just throws him out the club. Are you kidding me? And we followed this up with another great block. You have tight end crossing behind the line of scrimmage here, and he's got to pick up a bigger defensive end type. Actually, that's a DT. Gets his shoulder right in here. This linebacker has a bad fill, but that's a good block versus a defensive tackle. So, how do we feel about this room as a whole? Well, this is the twist. I don't know if Oscar Delp and Lawson Luckie are so good that their roles are for sure going to be super-duper locked in. Now, you would like to think that because, well, Luckie and Delp have very similar career paths, both are top 100 recruits. Obviously, Delp has 1 extra year of experience, but they graded out somewhat similarly. I've never been able to say similarly. There we go. But PFF views them around the same quality of player. So you guys feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I want to talk about the other tight ends, Reddell, Barber, and Williams. You know, we talked quite a bit actually about the sleeper on this team, Reddell. I like him, even though we barely got to see him. Some of it is based on some of the high school tape that we saw. But what's very interesting is 4 of these 5 tight ends were top 100 recruits, and the other was like in the 150. So this is by far the most talented tight end room in the country. Obviously, the Penn State diehards are going to come in. Ohio State has a very interesting room with Max Clare transferring in. But, you know, the thing is, Georgia plays so many tight ends, and they are not afraid to get vertical with them, even on what looks to be run down. So you'll see that Urasek, who's out the door, is on the field. Luckie is one tight end, and Delp is the other. And this is what many consider, and once again, football super-duper sharps, coaches, let me know. This looks like this is a Yankee concept, which is normally run with 2 receivers. You have a deep post and an over being run kind of sort of behind it. So the play action fake here is really, really, really good. What I like even better here for Mike Bobo is him doing this on 3rd and short, right? This is the ultimate instance where the defense thinks you're probably going to run, and you decide to throw and get vertical, and you get right into field goal range. So that throw was essentially a 3-point throw, and it was basically just a wide open one. So the thing is, for Georgia to run this 13 personnel set, you are going to need 3 tight ends. And obviously this is 2. Have a little bit of a switch release at the line of scrimmage there. And obviously Carson Beck throws his football up to Lawson Luckie. And you'll see that Luckie almost makes an absolutely positively incredible grab right there. But there you go. Let me know if you guys feel the same way about the other 3 tight ends, because one of them is obviously going to have to play quite a lot. I would guess that's going to be Reddell. But for real, comment below who you think is the better of the 2, Lawson Luckie and Oscar Delp. And we'll talk to you soon. Bang! Floating in your face. Some other fun Georgia film studies. Pick your poison, baby. It is Power Hour SEC. Boom! And tonight we are doing some snapper. Let's go.